This episode of Around the Oval is brought to you by Todd Pennington with Revolution Mortgage. Hey, Ohio State fans. Actually, I shouldn't say Ohio State fans. We've been doing the last few episodes of this show Around the Oval with Ohio State commits, but this time we're changing it up a little bit. So we might draw in some non-Ohio State fans here, some entertainment fans. We got a special guest. As I said, our first 6 or 7 episodes have been all Ohio State football commits, but today we're changing it up a little bit. We're going with an honorary Ohioan. We'll get into that in a little bit, but we've got actor Jerry Ferrara here in the house. Jerry, a lot of you guys might know from the shows Entourage or Power. He's been in a lot of other stuff too. I know he's got some stuff cooking, but Jerry, thanks for joining the show today.
What do you mean? I thought I was announcing my commitment to Ohio State today. Is that not happening?
I think you still got some eligibility left, so
I'm a
we might
fifth
be able to make
string
that
running
happen.
back. I play both ways. I play a little corner. I'm short for a corner. I play a little corner.
You could get in the slot, I think, though. This
Right.
short
I'm like a
slot.
Julian Edelman type.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for joining the show. For those of you who don't know, Jerry and I actually met a few years back playing some pickup hoops in the city. Unfortunately, due to both of us, well, I would say not unfortunately, I would say both of us having a kid last year around, a few months apart, obviously, cut into that time a little bit. And then, some gym issues. That's how it goes in the city. And then, of course, COVID kind of shut it down for good. We haven't had the opportunity to play, but we've kept in touch. And Jerry's a friend of Buckeye Scoop and glad to have him on. But Jerry, let us know, with everything going on, how have you and the family been?
Pretty much like every family, obviously, in the beginning, it was a lot of fear and confusion and not knowing what to do. So we abide by whatever they say to abide by for safety. You know, we're living in New York and Brooklyn, and it was one of the first areas that really was considered like a hotbed. And it was weird. So we actually, my wife, let's get it out there now. My wife is from Stowe, Ohio, originally. And so she has lots of, her family's still pretty much all there. So at some point we decided, it's a little hectic over here. Let's get in the car. We drove to Ohio, which hadn't been hit as hard yet at that point, but also, it's so spread out over there. You could actually still take the kid out and play in the yard and not be on top of like 700 other people. So we toughed out a lot, like a solid month of it in Ohio. And then when we felt like things started getting a little not back to normal, but safer, we had to just get back home. We were gone too long. So it's been rough, like everything else. A lot of people obviously going through some stuff, and just hoping for, we had some positive news yesterday in New York that, there wasn't any deaths. That's great to hear. But just hope that this ends soon for a
Yeah, I
lot of
think,
reasons.
yeah, for sure. I think we're all hoping it ends soon. Yeah, obviously want to have you on the show for many reasons, but one of the reasons was kind of your new ties to Ohio. But before we get into that, talk a little bit about how you met your wife. I know she was an actress. I don't know if she's still doing any acting right now, but tell us a little bit about how you guys met.
Yeah. So, I was living in LA. I moved to LA when I was about 20 years old. So I was in LA for like 18 years. She moved there. She's younger than me. She's 32. I'm 40. So she moved there when she was 18 from fresh out of Stowe, Ohio, and was out there acting as well. She had done an episode of Entourage. She did a nice guest star where her character was when the Ari character was separated from his wife. He went on a date with a much younger girl. She was the much younger girl, and it just kind of timed out. I actually co-wrote that episode. I co-wrote 2 episodes of the show, but I didn't have any scenes with her. Our paths did not cross at all on the show. Obviously, I did note after I saw the episode back, I was like, wow, that girl's really beautiful and probably someone who's way out of my league. So was about a year later at like a mutual friend's birthday party. We met, and I kind of approached her with this really intentionally dumb joke that she took literal and got all not pissed off, but just like called me an idiot. I kind of went up to her and like introduced myself. I was like, hey, funny thing, I created you. And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, no, on the, she just got really weirded out. I guess when you say that, it's creepier than it sounded in my head. And I said, no, I wrote that episode and I wrote your character, and that kind of broke the ice. And pretty much from that night on, it started then, and we haven't left each other's side for now 7 years, married for 3, and we got a 14-month-old boy. So it's a nice Hollywood romance story, I guess, for once.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. And I would say I'm just curious. So for me, I grew up in Jersey. I know you're a New Yorker native. So like for me, when I was first looking at colleges, I went to Ohio State, but like when I was looking at colleges, and I think it was my mom brought up like checking out Ohio State. And I was just like, my view of Ohio was just like cows and
Right.
farms and all that stuff. And I feel bad saying that, but like, then I looked into it and I was like, oh man, there's some like pretty cool cities here. Like Columbus is an awesome city. Like Cleveland's
Yeah.
a cool city. So like, what was your first impression when she was like, oh yeah, I'm from Ohio? And like, you're like, oh, this might be going somewhere. Like I might have to like go to Ohio. Like what was your thoughts?
So, well, I remember my first trip meeting her family, right?
Yeah.
I went back, it was like 4th of July, whatever it was, 6 or 7 years ago. I had already met her mom in LA about meeting her dad for the first time, whatever. And her and her sister had gotten into like an argument. Okay. It wasn't anything dramatic or that bad. It was like a tiny little argument. And then her dad was trying to kind of like settle the issue and like put us all in the car, and like we drove through like the Ohio Valley, which in New York you always hear we're getting the weather from like the Ohio Valley's blow. So it's like, oh wow, this is the Ohio Valley. But it wasn't until we went out that night in like Kent, which was real cool. We went to a bar over there, and then I saw, we went downtown to Cleveland, and like I saw, all the stadiums. And then when I really started meeting her friends, like husbands and stuff, and I really got to see like, wow, this is just a great sports town. Like these people care. I mean, obviously in New York, we care so much about our teams. It's almost on a different level in Ohio. I don't know how to explain it. It really is like 24/7. So that's how I am. So I related to all these guys and girls right away. And also, I don't have any college alliances, New York. And you grew up in Jersey, so what is like Rutgers wasn't anything. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm older than you, so Rutgers was
Yeah.
not a
Only a few
thing.
years. Yeah. No,
Like
I mean,
they had a run then, like, late 90s, early 2000s, but when I was growing up, they weren't a thing. Basketball wise, St. John's was a thing a little before my time with Chris Mullen. I was real young, and then we had one hope with Felipe Lopez that did not work out.
and like the Ron Artest, like
And
LeVar
but they
Postel.
still
Yeah.
didn't. I
Yeah.
don't know if
Yeah. For
Artest
sure.
even got into the tournament. I don't know if that team
I think there
made.
was one team that made, I think they lost in the Elite Eight to the Buckeyes actually in like
Oh, they
98,
made a run.
99. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you grow up in New York, it's really hard to have any, and college sports is so good, but, I moved to LA when I was 20. So I tried the UCLA thing, couldn't do it. It just felt fake and phony. But now going to Ohio, and, Ohio's obviously been having a lot of success in the last 7 years since I've been going there. We're playing a lot of important games. I go watch the games with her family and her friends, and it's just like a sports fanatic's dream to see. And it really could. It's tough to wrap my head around caring that much about college football. I mean, I watch as a fan, but I don't have a team. So I am sort of adopting Ohio State, So I hear someone shout OH, I instinctually shout out IO. It's just part of my I call it my team-in-law. Ohio State is my team-in-law.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get what you're saying. Like growing up in Jersey, it was like people rooted for Penn State because it was like the biggest
Right.
school. People root for Notre Dame because it's just like, at least it used to be like that national team, especially if you were Catholic or something like that, right? But there was no real team. Like I grew up a huge college basketball fan. My dad actually raised me a UNC fan, but like I liked St. John's when they had their run, But other than that, until I went to Ohio State and I got immersed in that. Like it didn't take long. It was like 2 weeks. And like, you just notice it right away, as you said. And it's crazy town. They care, in New York, like people are like, all right, college football, I'll watch it on, Saturday. If it's on, whatever, great. But like, it's all about the Giants or the Jets on Sunday. Like it's not in Ohio. Like, I mean, they love their Browns still. They love their Bengals, but like the Buckeyes are number one, I think. I don't know if like Does
Oh
your
no,
wife
I
and
agree with
like, sit
that.
around and like watch, every game religiously on every Saturday? Have
I
you
as far
haven't
as
experienced that?
Cleveland goes, I mean, it is pretty like the Browns thing, and I've been to a
Yeah.
few Browns games, and like the tailgating situation over there is outstanding. Like they have all these different parking lots that kind of do different things. Like there's some parking lots where it's just like real like hardcore beer stand, keg stands, and all that. Then there's like one parking lot that's more about like the food. There's some great barbecue. I mean, it was awesome. But yeah, I think that, and maybe it is because Ohio State has just played in more meaningful games than
Games,
like
right.
the Browns or the Bengals have in the last decade. Although the Bengals have had some playoff games. It's definitely a Buckeye town for sure. And
Yeah.
all of my wife's cousins, most of them anyway, are like one's graduating Ohio State soon, however that goes nowadays. And yeah, I'm still yet to be to a game though.
Yeah,
That's like my
I
next
mean,
step.
I was gonna say I don't know if it's gonna happen this year, but
Right.
maybe 2021 we'll have to meet up at the Horseshoe and do some give you the little tour for
So we
sure.
discuss a lot of team alliances for our son because we're a split, and I really think that look, the Knicks are
That's your number
like
one.
it's
Yeah.
non-negotiable because if
Yeah.
I got to suffer through it, he's got to suffer through it with me. That is going to be our suffrage together. There's no way I will not give that up. As far as the Yankees go, I obviously want him to be a Yankee fan, but the Yankees are so considered like front runnery. Like I wouldn't mind if he was an Indians fan. Like I wouldn't fight it as hard. Football, I would actually be solid. I would be fine if he was a Browns fan because I like the struggle, but there's this huge open piece of real estate. Like it's non-negotiable. Like Ohio State for sure. He's already got Ohio State
Yeah.
colors. Like that's an easy adoption for him.
I mean, yeah, I was gonna say the Knicks have to be number one for you. It's like
They
plus he gets
are.
the courtside seats too, which is
Right. If again, I mean, I better get another good acting job though if I want to keep those. But yeah, it's and again, like I said, it's just you got to suffer through it with me. Like I am a loyal fan. Like I don't jump off the Knicks bandwagon because they're bad. They've been bad for a while, and I'm still there, like hopeful as ever.
And I think the Cleveland fans can relate to that though, because look at the Browns. I mean, they have not had a good even like they had when I was in college, they had a great year. They won like 10 games with Derek Anderson as their quarterback, and they still didn't make the playoffs. Other than that, I mean, they had the spark, I guess, 2 seasons ago. Baker in his rookie year. Last year was not great. So I think they can relate to you there. I think Cavs fans obviously can relate to you for a long time until LeBron won the title, right? And then even now, right? So I think people will get that for sure. Like you got to stick with the Knicks, but as long as you don't change your teams, I think they're cool with whatever Jacobs raised, right?
Well, when we went to a Browns game a few years ago, I guess this was like 4 or 5 years ago, I got some nice tickets from my buddy Jay Glazer as a name drop for you. And we went and they kind of before we went, they sent like a bunch of Browns hoodies and hats and stuff. And obviously like I took my father-in-law, my sister-in-law, my wife, they were all wearing it. I'm like, you know what? I could wear a Browns hoodie because and some people who saw that picture on the gram were like, how could you do that? I'm like, look, the Giants and the Browns have zero rivalry. They are in separate conferences. They play each other once every like 7 years. There is no debate. I felt like I was in civilian waters. And again, being a team-in-law situation, they were playing the Raiders that day. I'm not going to root for the Raiders. So, and that game had no implication on the Giants either. So I thought it was fine. I got a lot of heat for that, though.
Yeah, I don't think that's right. And you're not the guy wearing the Giants jersey to the random Browns Raiders game too. That's my number one pet peeve. Like,
yeah, either go
either wear nothing,
neutral colors or rock
pick
the
one of the
team.
teams.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's like the sensible thing to do. So I thought, and again, this is 5 years ago, so it's like early. It's we're 2 years into the
right.
relationship. I'm like, let me seal the
Yeah,
deal here.
there you go. There you go. Cool, man. Well, always good talking sports. It's interesting, when I mentioned you were going to be on the show, a lot of the guys wanted to talk about, I mean, I guess they didn't really know your Ohio ties, but they obviously want to talk about Entourage, some other things. So we'll do some fan Q&A in a little bit, but wanted to just give you the opportunity. I mean, I know we've been talking, I know you're working on some things, but just plug any shows, movies, maybe even stuff not even necessarily upcoming, but like stuff you feel you've done that maybe people haven't watched as much as like an Entourage. I know obviously like Power on Stars was a big show for you. So go for it. What should the people be
Floor is
watching?
mine.
Floor is yours.
Well, I mean, yeah, first off, Power is one of those shows that is super bingeable. And obviously we all have more time on our hands than normal and a lot of TV is being watched. So if you're looking for a show and you've kind of run through the Netflix gamut of shows and the Amazon Prime and the Hulu, I would say Power is a good one to sit down from episode one. They fly by. It is a highly, highly addictive show. It's got a little bit of everything. It's got, I don't want to say what it's got, but it's like a gritty New York crime drama, but also has like this kind of soapy feel to it. Love triangles and all that. So there's that. As far as upcoming stuff, I've been for pretty much all of quarantine, we've been working on Zoom in this writer's room for this show that the creator of Power, Courtney Kemp, and I sold to HBO. That is a police drama that we've been writing. I've been in that room every day. So we're hoping that gets the green light. That would be a good one. And then on the movie front, I produced and did a little role in this movie called Dating in New York, which is a young filmmaker who's a friend of mine as well, Jonah Feingold, who is super, super talented. Shot all in New York City for pretty low budget considering what it takes to shoot in New York. Like the fact that this movie was actually pulled off is incredible. And that's more in the rom-com genre, which is his niche. So that is in the process of being sold right now. So that'll be out at some point in the near future. And then after that, I mean, we'll see what's next. I do a lot of stuff with the 2K League. I don't know if there's any NBA 2K League fans out there. It's actually been airing on ESPN2 because I think ESPN2 has been starved for some content in quarantine days. So we're in the midst of our Knicks gaming season. We're right on the outside of the playoff bubble looking in. I think we're 6-6. So if we get a little run, we got 4 games left, we can get in. Or it's funny, they tested this format, I think, in the 2K League. I don't know if it was intentional, but we have a play-in tournament for all teams who are on the outside looking in. So the last playoff spot's never locked in. That goes to all the non-playoff teams will play in this tournament over the course of a weekend, which we won in season 1 to get into the playoffs and ended up winning the championship. Yeah. So we may be looking at having to run the table in that tournament. Again, it's like a March Madness style thing. So that's literally all happening currently. Like those games are going on like tomorrow night.
That's awesome. That would be pretty cool in real life. So I'm curious to see if that's something that they look at in the future. But
it really is intense.
Yeah, and I mean, even both conferences, the Eastern Conference is always a bunch of bad teams competing for that 8th spot. The Western Conference is always a bunch of really good teams that would be like the 3 seed in the East competing for that 8th spot. So I would love to see that in real life. That would be
how
sweet.
Good would a Western Conference NBA play-in tournament for the 8th seed? So if you took the 8th seed to whatever, 12
or something. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that might be better than some first round Eastern Conference matchups.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, no, I definitely want to give an extra plug to the Dating in New York movie. I know one of our subscribers on the board had mentioned that they seem to be an investor of some sort or have a vesting interest in that movie. So definitely go see that whenever it comes out. Jerry will keep me posted on that so I can let you guys all know. But let's do a little fan Q&A. I kind of broke these out into some general Entourage questions, some personal questions, some Entourage cast questions. So we'll do like a little rapid fire. Don't feel like you have to give long answers. So just, about the opportunity to be on Entourage. I mean, I'm sure you weren't, as you said, you were 20, you weren't really a name. How did that opportunity come about? And how did it feel to get the part when you found out you were going to be Turtle?
So that opportunity came to me at the time. Well, it's not that it's still the same manager. My manager then, who is also my manager now, Steve Levinson, who also represents Mark Wahlberg, they kind of organized the show together. It was, I think, initially going to be a reality-based show about Mark and his friends. And I think they realized, like, maybe can't air all like this is some stuff that I think Lev, as we call him, Steve Levinson, then had the idea, no, we should adapt this and make it scripted so we could kind of, you know, not have it be so real. And that's when they hired Doug Ellen, who's also a big New York sports fan. And so Lev, my manager at the time, was telling me, you know, we're doing this HBO show. We think there's a couple of parts it could be good for. Great. So I end up auditioning for Turtle. And that process was so ongoing because they were doing a pretty big search. You know, you're casting 4 roles, so you got to get the chemistry right. I mean, I read with every young, like 20-something, 30-something-year-old actor, like in LA for this role. If you had any New York ties, I mean, every day I would go in and they were matching me up with different people trying to get it right. So once that phase ends and I kind of, it goes in stages. So I kind of make it out of that stage. I'm definitely in the top 3 or 4 for the role of Turtle at this point. And it all leads to the final phase, which is you go basically HBO, it's their show, they're paying for it. They have the final say. So you go test in front of the network, they say. And it's kind of like you're in this dark theater almost, small little theater. And you go in and they're just mixing actors all day long. So the waiting room, though, it's like, it's almost sectioned off. Like you have all the Turtles over here. You have all the E's over there. There's all the handsome guys. Those are all the Vinces. But I will say the only Johnny Drama, there was never a second choice. It was Kevin Dillon and Kevin Dillon only. There was at one point, I'll never forget, he like stood up in the audition room and is like, who else is here reading for Johnny Drama? And I think it was Kevin Connolly. We don't know each other at this point. Is like, nobody, it's just you. You probably got the part. And he's like, oh, all right. Well, I'm going to go smoke a cigarette. I'll be right back. And so I remember that being just like a grueling day. At one point, Mark Wahlberg, who I had not met at this point, comes out into the room, and everyone like kind of, we didn't even know he was there. And he looks, he's pointing at me and he's waving me over. I'm like, this is weird. So I walk over and he kind of like pulls me in and he's like whispering to me. He's like, listen, you're kind of blowing it right now. And I'm like, I am? He's like, look, you're fine. You're doing fine, but like you need to be great. And I saw all your audition tapes previous to this and they were great. You're kind of playing it a little safe. Like now's the time. Gave me like that, like wake the F up. It's time. Like don't sit back and play it cool. Go for it. And it was like this really great like cup of coffee almost. I got so energized. So I went back in there and I remember feeling a shift in the energy where I was just like killing it. And it's like a 6-hour day. So they start sending people home. They're like, okay, you could go. It's like Hunger Games, man. And I do remember the last session of the day, they bring me, Kevin Connolly, Kevin Dillon, and there was another actor there for the role of Vince because Adrian Grenier was not actually there in person. He sent in a tape because he was somewhere else doing something, saving something. And but I do remember me, Connolly, and Dillon, like we did our audition all together, and it was like we were like the last people standing. And I went home that night. I remember driving home. I went into like the 7-Eleven parking lot and got like a big gulp. And I'm like just sitting in there like, oh man, how long now? Is it gonna take a week to hear? And Doug Ellen called me and was like, you got the part, shoot the pilot in a week. Congratulations, click. And I just sat there frozen. I'm like, wow, I can't believe it. And like I called my mom, and you still have to explain to your mom what a pilot is and the process of that. But she was like obviously very happy for me and proud. And yeah, the rest is history from there. I remember too, I wore the big concern for me not getting the part would have been because I might have looked too young. Remember, I was 23 at that point and I had a real baby face. Kevin Dillon at that point was like 40. I think Kevin Connolly was 30. So there was a chance they were going to go a little older with the cast. That would have been the reason why I didn't get it. So Lev and all that was trying to do everything. I didn't shave for a week. I didn't have much at the time. I wore like these big bulky clothes to kind of make me look even heavier. I wore like a size 54. Sorry, Browns Bengals fan. I wore Jerome Bettis jersey. It was just like the only football jersey I really had at that point that was oversized. That's what I wore with a hoodie over it. That's what I wore to my network test. I still have that Jerome Bettis jersey.
That's awesome. That's a great story. So
That
the
was not
next
a quick
question.
answer for your
No, no,
speed
no. That
round.
was awesome though. I think that's like the type of stuff they want to hear. But like, so this one though, like, were you? I mean, obviously at that moment you couldn't have imagined what the show would have became. But like, were you surprised by the success of Entourage, or like when you read the, when you read the part and when you read kind of what the show was about and heard it, were you like, oh, this is going to be for sure a hit?
Well, I knew because at the time too, you got to think HBO. This is 2003, so like HBO is like Sex and the City, Sopranos, The Wire, Oz. Like it was like premium. They were rewriting the television rule book, So and we had Wahlberg as our producer, so I liked our chances. But I any show early on now it's a little different because premium stuff and streaming stuff is so well done and plotted out. But back then, we still like were figuring it out as we went. So and then once the season started airing, oddly enough, like viewership wise was not great, but we had all this like critical acclaim. Like Entourage got nominated season 1 for a Golden Globe. Piven got nominated, I think, for an Emmy, and Kevin Dillon. So like we had all this critical acclaim out of the gate, which is nice, but we did not have the numbers to back it up. But that was one of the benefits of being on HBO. HBO's philosophy really was allowing a show a chance to breathe. I guess it's like you equate it to almost like the Spurs in a way or whatever. Like they have really good developmental coaches for their players. So it's a long-term deal to them. Whereas
Yeah.
I think if we were on like an NBC or an ABC, because we didn't get those numbers, we would have been pulled right away.
Yeah.
So they
It's
gave us
a
a
lot
chance
of
to grow.
I was gonna say a lot of the HBO shows are kind of like that. Like I remember I started watching Entourage pretty early. Like it might have been like during season 2 where I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go back and start watching. But like Game of Thrones, I think was like that too a little bit. Where in the beginning I was like, I'm not watching a show with dragons and all this stuff.
Sure.
But then like
Same.
I was like, you know what? By like season 4, whatever, I'm gonna give this a shot. And then like went back and I was like, I got hooked. And then like you're just in there. And so I feel like a lot of HBO shows or like the shows on the premium networks are like that to some extent because they don't have the exposure of the broadcast networks. And then, you start to hear the buzz, you start to hear the critics talk about it, and then, the fans maybe follow after season 1. But
Well, what changed the game for us, and this is just like a timing thing, and this is what you need in Hollywood. You need to get a little lucky, and the timing needs to be right. But, our first season aired, lots of critical acclaim, not great numbers, and then also typical HBO fashion, like the show doesn't come back for a year because that's just, how they do it. But in that year was kind of the launch of TiVo and HBO On Demand. So in that year, while we were off the air, and then we get ready to shoot season 2, so really was almost a year and a half till the show aired again. All like guys and girls in colleges and all the people who started getting HBO On Demand binged the first season several times. So I think we were the #1 watched show on HBO On Demand when it came out. So then we film our second season and dropped the second season. Our numbers then tripled because we had built this audience in our off season, which shows before that never had that chance. Like maybe networks would show some reruns here or there, but if you didn't catch it, you missed it. So we really built in the off season with the launch of TiVo and HBO On Demand.
That's a good point. I didn't think about it like that. With that in mind, I mean, I know you guys did the movie. Has there been discussions of, someone asked this, I would guess no, but either another movie or picking the show back up to some extent?
So, and I've seen that a lot too, and it's kind of almost like a tribute to the fans of the show because they are so like loyal and ride so hard for the show. But I think the bottom line is #1. I think we're all a little too old at this point and we've done so much with those characters. It's not that it's like a hard no, but we really did put those guys through the ringer. I mean, the Vincent Chase character was up and down and back up again and down again. Like how many times could you do that? And, like I said, I started the show, I was 24, I'm 40. Like there maybe is the version where we all have kids and stuff. Are we all still going to be living together in our 40s? Like, so maybe you could do like one character's story from there. There hasn't really been talks of it or another movie. And the bottom line too is like the movie did good, not great. And in order to get another movie bankrolled, the second one would always be more expensive than the first one. It needed to, numbers wise, be great.
Yeah.
And it was only good. I think you can reboot Entourage, the franchise, but you got to go with an entirely different cast. I'm talking myself out of a job, but
Maybe some guest appearances in there,
right.
right? Yeah.
But I think if you go an entirely different younger cast, maybe even switch the genre, maybe it's music, maybe it's sports, or maybe it's still acting, I don't know, or in Hollywood, but I think you could do the Entourage brand still.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Who's your favorite person who did a cameo on the show? There's so many of them.
We've had so many. Well, I will say the most important one we ever had was James Cameron. And here's why. Because he came on the show season 2. It was not easy getting cameos in the first 2 or 3 seasons. No one knew who we were. Everyone thought we were trying to like make fun of them by playing. No actor wants to play themselves, right? Every actor wants to be portrayed as someone who's acting, They don't want to play themselves. So James Cameron comes on as the director of Aquaman. It just legitimized the whole like fake universe we created, And James Cameron only really had one wish. If I'm playing myself directing this fake movie, it's got to be the #1 movie in the world. And we're like, sure, done. Because I think Aquaman in the beginning was maybe going to be bad until we got James Cameron. Then it's like, okay, new plan. But what that cameo did was it legitimized all the other cameos going forward in that world. So that was the most important one. Some of my faves, obviously the Tom Brady episode on the golf course was incredible. The lore behind that episode, that initially was written, and I think per their request, was written for that foursome was going to be the Vince character, the Johnny Drama character versus Eli and Peyton Manning. That was the initial concept, and they wanted to do it. So about 4 weeks out from shooting, the Mannings canceled for whatever reason. I don't know what happened, or they got cold feet, or they just had a conflict. So we were screwed. And that's where having Mark Wahlberg as your executive producer is so amazing, because he's like, well, I'll do it. And you want me to call Tom? And we're all just like, Brady? He's like, yeah, I'll call TB. I'm like, yeah, go make that call. And he calls Brady. And literally, like within an hour, it's like, Tom's in. We're going to do it. So go rewrite the script. And Doug Ellen and I sat like in his office, like rewriting some of the dialogue. The whole Tom Brady sucks balls thing was like that. We actually called one of my friends who's the biggest Giant fan in the world. We asked him, like, what would you say to Tom Brady if you saw him the night before the Super Bowl? He's like, I'd tell him he sucks balls. Boom. Thank you. It's going in the script. And, that was the year Tom Brady missed the entire year because of his knee injury. So he had not really been seen on the football field for a while. And I have to say, he just came on and was super prepared, like knew all his lines, was good, and was just a nice, normal dude. Like he was hanging with the crew. At one point, I think he was throwing footballs to some crew members. It was awesome. So that one is always a big standout for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. But we're on an Ohio State podcast, and he went
LeBron,
to the school up north
as well.
So we'll say Brady still sucks balls, but no,
yes.
that's awesome. Favorite episode ever?
Oh man. This is almost like picking between your kids, because there's so many that mean so many things for me.
I'm the bar mitzvah episode, if that helps any.
The bar mitzvah episode one was hilarious. I mean, I got to play Stone the entire episode, so it's a real stretch. The Sundance episode always sticks out for me because that was the first time we ever played like a road game almost. We shot that at the actual Sundance Film Festival, which ended up becoming a trend for us. Like that season, which I believe was season 2, we also shot courtside at the Laker game, which not a lot of shows have done. So that became a trend where once a year, we always would start with an episode outside of LA, because I think season 3 was like New York. Then we did the Cannes Film Festival. So that episode always really stands out. All right, but if I had to pick one favorite, I like the Joshua Tree episode where we all take mushrooms and Vince is trying to make this
Benji.
This big light, like to do the Benji movie or not.
Yeah, that's a good
which
one.
was season 5, which is my second favorite season. I think season 2 is arguably our best because we really figured it out. I love that season 5 because that was really where the Vince character went through some struggle.
The Vegas one was good too. That was a good episode.
The Vegas, tell Sloan I said what up,
yeah.
Fighting with, I mean, there's just like, I have not looked back at these episodes in a long time. It's almost like a time capsule. Like your life is now in the time capsule, because I look at those episodes and I think of what was going on in my personal life during those times.
Right. It's funny because I was rewatching just for fun, like season one a couple weeks back, and I was like, I can't. That doesn't even look like you. Like, I know
Yeah.
you as I'm seeing you right now on camera. I mean, obviously, I watched the show, but I'm like, this isn't even the same dude. It's crazy. I mean, obviously the weight loss, but like, just like you look so young. It's crazy too.
So young, and I mean, I still like to think I'm so New York, but I guess I'm a little more polished, even in the way I speak a little more now. But I mean, at that point, I was only out of Brooklyn like 2.5, 3 years. Like I was raw, and I really didn't know what I was doing. I was faking a little bit of it till I figured it out. But yeah, I mean, I was a Brooklyn meathead.
uh, we did episode out of all the fictional movies or shows or whatever that were created for Entourage. What do you think would have been the best one in real life, or which one would you have liked to see the most?
Ironically enough, Entourage has this thing where all the fake lore we created goes on to get really made. Example,
Aquaman.
Aquaman really made and did really well. How Adrian didn't get a cameo in that movie, just like a
Yeah.
blip as like a
Yeah.
little inside joke out of whatever. Um, we did Medellin, which is like the Pablo Escobar story. Then Narcos was like one of
Narcos.
the.
Yeah.
We did the Enzo Ferrari stories, Ford versus Ferrari. Like there is this weird thing. But I would say Aquaman, James Cameron's Aquaman. Like I'm seeing that movie.
No doubt.
But I think I definitely want to see Queens Boulevard, and I don't know if you can see. I have a poster in the back right there. That's a Queens Boulevard and
Solid.
Medellin
Yeah.
poster. I would like to see what Queens Boulevard and Billy Walsh's work.
Billy Walsh.
One of my
Was
favorite
a great
characters on the
character.
show.
I just forgot about him until you brought him up. Great character.
Great character and great actor, Reese Coiro. Great actor.
What's the story behind the name Turtle?
Honestly, there is none. One of my first questions for Doug Ellen after season 1 was like, first of all, what's Turtle's real name? And Doug was like, I don't know. We'll figure it out in like season 7. I'm like, oh man, you're an actor. You're trying to like get your backstory. I'm like, well, why did I call him Turtle? He's like, I just made it up. I don't know. To this day, there is no lore or backstory as to why he's called Turtle. Some people have had theories. I don't even remember some of them, but it wasn't until about it's either season 6 or 7. I always wanted Turtle to have like, what's his real name? And I did say to Doug at one point, I said, if he does have a name, I would love it to be Sal, because one of my good friends growing up in Brooklyn, who actually moved to Jersey, to Marlboro, New Jersey.
That's where I'm from. That's my
when
hometown.
we were a teenager, I guess about 17. He passed away at 23 years old, right around the time I got Entourage. And I'm not going to say he's who I based Turtle on, because it's a bunch of different people, but there were similarities between Turtle and my friend, where it's just like just that joy in life, and like being like the center of the party and never wanting the party to end. Like that was my buddy. He was just a good time guy. And I had mentioned that to him in like season 2, when we never really discussed it after that. And then in season 6, I get, this is back when we had paper scripts. So I get the script delivery to my house for next week's episode or whatever, and I'm reading it, and I'm halfway through, and I see the scene with my character and the Jamie Lynn Sigler character, and she asks what's your name? And I say Sal, and like I just like dropped the script and froze. He didn't tell me he was gonna do that. It just happened, and I take a lot of pride to this day in that Turtle's real name is Salvatore Asante, because that's that was my buddy growing up. So I think he's pretty happy about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's an awesome tribute. Not last question, but quick, another one. Did you get to keep the Fukijamas, and how hard was it not chanting Rufio around Dante Basco?
I absolutely have the Fukijamas. There is, I think, a total of 7 in the world. Obviously, the ones I have are the ones that you see on the show, and then the artist Mark Smith who made those, who we commissioned to make those, made them for each of the guys and then for 2 of our producers. But I have the ones that you see on the show. They are tucked away in the other room in a wall safe. So if you're coming for it, you better be good at cracking safes. I've gotten crazy offers for those shoes over the years, anywhere between $25,000 and $70,000. I'm never selling them, obviously. Hopefully Jacob doesn't grow up and sell them when I'm not looking, when they become his. But as far as the Rufio thing, yeah, I mean, it really was always hard to not nerd out on Entourage because you are meeting actors, athletes, over that you just respect so much. And even like, Dion Bosco, like I love this character. It's really hard not to go Rufio on him, but I didn't do it because I pride myself on not fanboying out.
I hear you. I hear you. So some questions about the cast. How close are you to the guys still?
Very. You know, it's much like a family in a way where like you'll always be close. There's always love there with everyone of the main cast. Sometimes people go in like different directions, not because of any reason, just where they are in their world. But Kevin Connolly, and Kevin Dillon are all really close. I mean, Kevin Dillon taught me how to play golf. I had never played golf in my life, and we always mess around on those golf simulators we had on the show. And then one day he's like, come on, we were on a lunch break. He's like, I'm going to take you to a par 3. I'm going to teach you how to hit a golf ball. And he did. And Kevin Dillon and I have played 1,000 rounds of golf. Kevin Connolly is just always someone from day one, like felt like a big brother to me. And he's just the greatest guy. And we talk regularly. I mean, they're producing Kevin Connolly's producing a podcast with Kevin Dillon and Doug Ellen called the Victory Podcast, And, Adrian, who lives not far from me in New York, I see from time to time, he's just so busy. He's all over the world. So I don't get to speak to him as much, but man, that's just family. These guys are at my wedding, it's a family.
No doubt. Someone wants to know who's taller, you or Kevin Connolly.
Well, listen, if you ask me, it's me. If you ask Kevin Connolly, it's Kevin Connolly. I think we have gone back to back, and I think everyone's always afraid to tell us the real answer. It's like the end of Rocky 2, where like Apollo and Rocky are boxing alone. Like no one actually knows who would have won that. We're probably the exact same size. Although if you ask him, he will say he has a solid half an inch on me.
All right. And then last cast question we'll go with, get you out of here in a few minutes. Jeremy Piven, how is he in real life? Is he really that funny? Is he just a great actor? Like,
really funny guy. I mean, he's a world-class actor, he's a great actor. Unfortunately for me, like I didn't get a whole lot of scene. I didn't work a ton with him, that always fell more on Adrian and Connolly because they were all doing the bit. It was always, at some point it became like E and Vince doing their thing with Ari or whatever. And then me and Dylan would always get like this other storyline, which was always a lot of fun. I mean, Dylan was the guy I worked closely with, but Piven's a great actor, tremendous actor.
What was it like going from basically relative unknown person in public to not being able to go out without being recognized, during the heart of that show?
It's certainly weird, but in a good way. It's and in a bad way. On one level, it's like so flattering. Like, wow, these people are actually watching the show and they're liking the show. They're liking the work. Like that's people say like, I don't do it for that. Like you want people to like your work. Let's just be honest, But then there's this other side though, where as years go on, people really feel like, hold on. People really feel like they know you, like the real you, or they can't separate you from the show.
True, yeah.
Which on one level, again, is flattering. That means you're doing your job well. But some people sometimes just feel like they have this this right to, come over and just infiltrate whatever situation you're in. Which, and again, 99% of the time, any experiences with any fans of Entourage are just like amazing. It's super complimentary. I'll mess around with them. We'll goof around. Every now and then you get this 1% that they're either kind of trolling and want to get like a negative reaction out of you, or just like they genuinely can't separate that it's like a show and that I don't have a dog named Arnold and I'm not going back to meet Vince at like the Playboy Mansion. It's like, listen, it's a TV show. It's a fake world. I love that you are invested in it, but you do know that I'm not that. But like I said, 99% of the time it's a positive experience. And it took me a while to get used to because like, that's not why I did it. I'm an actor because I love acting. Like I would be an actor if, no one knew who you were. And it's just weird because I don't like that attention in a way where like I just don't feel like I deserve it, you know?
Yeah, for sure. But it's still pretty cool, I'm sure, to
It's
get
very
recognized.
it's
Yeah.
very cool. You know, some of the experiences I've had the opportunity, like courtside at the Knicks game, stuff like that only happens because of Entourage, you know?
Yep.
But there's always in the back of my mind, I will sum up my whole career in a way where it's like I feel like I snuck into a party that I wasn't invited to, and I'm gonna get kicked out any minute. You know, like they're gonna figure out like, wait, you're not supposed to be at this party. You're not a great actor. You know, so whenever I get that attention, I just feel like it's not deserved. Like I didn't do anything special.
I hear you. I hear you. But all your hard work did pay off for that.
Yes.
So no doubt. Two questions real quick about two things non-Entourage. How cool was it to work with like Morgan Freeman, Robert De Niro? Who else did you have? You had Kevin Kline in
Michael
Las Vegas. Michael
Douglas,
Douglas. That's
Larry
right.
Steve yeah. I always say to people like, right after I got that part, I was sending people the IMDb screenshot of that list. I'm like, which of these things does not belong in this statement? That was one of the more unique experiences ever because I had the chance to work with people that I idolized all in one shot. The cool thing was, you know, you almost got to sometimes be careful what you wish for because you work with people that you respect so much, and it's like, oh, they're not cool. They're kind of, you know, I don't want to curse, but they're just not cool. They all were, you know, like they were hardworking. Like I tell this one story with Morgan Freeman, who, if anyone has the right to take a day off in his career, Morgan Freeman could. We were shooting in Vegas, and it was this scene where he has to do this whole like ballroom dance kind of thing, and he was sick that day. He was under the weather. He had like 100 and something fever, you know, and he like had like chills. And I remember getting the set that morning, being like, "Oh, we're not working today. Morgan Freeman's sick. Like we're all going home." And sure enough, Morgan Freeman's like, "No, I want to work until I feel like I can." So, you know, everyone was obviously super cautious, and like he would do a take and then he would like go rest up and do a take. And he pretty much got through the day. And that's where I started saying to myself, like, man, like this is a guy who's a little bit, you know, older in years, obviously at this point in his career, has done so much. Like maybe, yeah, if I wasn't feeling well, I'd have to power through because who am I? I'm like, this is Morgan Freeman. And he just was like, no, we're working. We're here to work. He didn't want to like cost the production money. He didn't want to send the crew home for the day. Like, and he did it.
That's awesome.
You know, after the day one, I had a scene with De Niro and like we wrapped and he was like gave me a little hug and a pat on the back and was like, good job today. I'm like, this is like not supposed to happen. This is not supposed to happen to me. It was,
That's crazy.
yeah. I mean, I remember I have fond memories of that movie.
Yeah. And about Power, what did you enjoy most about working on Power? I know we talked about it
Oh
a little
man.
before, but
So, you know, we have a lot of Entourage fans who are going to listen to this, right? So, you know what Entourage is? It's this, you know, this not broad, but like semi-broad comedy set in like this wish fulfillment world, you know, where like excess is everything. And then you switch over to Power, where Power is this like gritty drama where I always say it's like, it was my first like adult character. I'm playing this criminal defense attorney who is like a single father, and I'm representing, you know, these two guys who are these notorious drug dealers, and I'm basically like a magician. I am the guy, I'm their fixer, essentially. So it's just so much fun. It was such a different role. And again, Power fans, similar to Entourage fans, are just like so loyal. I mean, when people come up to me on the street about Power, it's just insane because my character is responsible for the freedom of like the two main characters. So whenever they would get in a tight spot on the show, I was either like a hero or a goat, and not the good goat. So, and also it was like a coming home for me, you know, like
yeah.
when I met you in that basketball game, it was because I had just gotten married and they made me a full-time regular on Power, and I didn't want to, you know, leave my wife back in LA and then go to New York for 5 months and do the back and forth. So we said, let's just get an apartment in New York while I do this and see how it goes. And the show went on for 3 more years after that. It's what brought me back to New York. So it was also a homecoming party for me as well.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad that happened. I'm glad we got to link up. Speaking of hoops, second to last question. Someone wants to know how good of a basketball player you are, and they also want to know how my game is. I told them I'm like Dennis Rodman of pickup. I can set the hard picks. I can rebound. I can defense. I don't got a shot, but I'll do the dirty work.
Well,
But
okay. So first off, you might be more better fit to tell an honest answer about my pickup game. And when we met in pickup, I was on the tail end of like my I was clearly deteriorating as an athlete. Um, but at one point in the height of like pickup and all that, I just was real intense. Like I really cared and wanted to win. I was the guy who would like die for loose balls and like argue over score and whatever. I I play point guard. That was always my position. And I was a go to the hole player. I had a bunch of crafty finishes as a short guy, a bunch of floaters and stuff. But as I started to deteriorate, I knew I had to start shooting. So I focused a lot on the three. And I think I became a pretty good 3-point shooter in pickup. I could always hit the open man with a pass from anywhere. I stopped playing defense at 38 years old altogether. I will not play defense. Too many times I had gotten stitches or teeth knocked out at this stage in life. If you blow by me, good job by you. You're getting that. You're either going to make it or miss it. Very comfortable in the pick and roll. Like getting out in transition. I would rather I value a good pass over a basket of my own all day long. I would rather set you up. And here's what I'll say about you. Hard picks, good rebounder, good enough defender. Like you're in the right spots, but no one wants to get hurt playing defense at this point. But I think you're selling yourself short. You are good. And you and I had a little chemistry with a pick and pop. You became a pick and pop player.
I'm a pick and pop guy. I was
Yeah,
too
you
lazy
would.
to roll to the hoop, so I just, do the little pop and a set jumper, But no, yeah,
You and I had a good rhythm of a pick and pop elbow jumper. We won quite a few games running a
we
little pick and
did.
pop.
We did. And I'll say I agree with your assessment. I think the thing that people need to know is you have great vision, you're a great passer. And you do a good job of understanding how basketball should be played, even if we always can't do it. You know what you want someone to do, and I think that's a good trait. We'll let you go with this last question. Someone said, "What did Tony think about you dating Meadow?" But we'll just talk about you dated Jamie Lynn on the show, and then you guys
Yes.
dated in real life. What was that like?
Well, it was awesome, and her and I are still friends. You know, she's now married with 2 kids, and we're still in touch and good friends. She's a great person, and we had a lot of fun back then. As far as James Gandolfini, who, by the way, is my favorite actor of all time. Like, if you ask me who my favorite actor ever is, it's James Gandolfini by far. That show was my favorite show. I really only had one run-in with him, and it was at this event. He had produced a documentary for HBO. I want to say it's called Alive Day Memories. It was about troops in the war who kind of had like life close to near-death experiences, and then were able to come home and tell the story and what they go through. So it was obviously this emotional journey, and we went to a screening of it, and then there was like a little after party drink thing afterward, and her and I were there, and he was there. And at one point he did come over to me and he's like, "Come on, I gotta be that guy." He's like, "Some of the troops, they like your show. You take a picture." I was like, "I feel bad asking." I'm like, "Of course, duh." And we took all the pictures. But then there was that moment where like I think he didn't even know we were dating, and maybe kind of figured it out and was like, "That girl is like my daughter. She is my daughter. So you better like be a gentleman." Like he basically, I'm like, "Oh man, I got Tony Soprano." He basically gave me the look and was like, "Be a gentleman, behave yourself." I'm like,
Yeah,
"Okay."
you got to be careful. You're gonna get
Yes,
whacked,
sir.
right?
Yeah, yes, sir. I absolutely will. But
That's awesome.
and then I think we had left early, and then of course I think Connolly and Dylan stayed, and it just had like an awesome night. They have like this great picture of them with Gandolfini that I don't have. I am not in that photo, and I'm jealous I'm not in that photo because he was the best.
Awesome. Yeah, it was awesome. And that show kind of like helped a little bit of Entourage run in because it was kind of the back end of Sopranos into the beginning of Entourage. So
Yeah, and I
yeah,
think in the Sopranos final season, we were airing. I don't remember if it was either right before or right after them, but following them as like that's your lead in, like our numbers just instinctually naturally went up.
Yep. Yep. For sure.
But yeah, man, that's still to this day, I would say that's my number one show.
Awesome, man. Well, Jerry, we're going to let you go. You gave us definitely more time than we deserve, but we appreciate it. Just continue to stay safe. You and the family enjoy these couple days you have to yourself there in Brooklyn, and definitely would love to have you on again in a little bit, but stay safe.
For sure. And I'm going to be in Ohio a lot, so I could be a correspondent if you need. I could, start going to games. I could be whenever we're allowed to do that again, I could be a Buckeyes correspondent.
All right, man. Well, we'll take you up on that. Be safe. Thanks again.
All right, Alex.
All right. This episode of Around the Oval was brought to you by Todd Pennington with Revolution Mortgage. If you've been thinking about refinancing or buying a house, check out our sponsor, Todd Pennington with Revolution Mortgage. They offer low rates for refinancing and home purchase loans, including first-time home buyer programs, down payment assistance, and cash-out home equity loans. Check out revolutionmortgage.com/tpennington.